Am I on? Good morning. I want to welcome all of you to our Wednesday morning class, and you that are here in person, welcome. And to you that are joining us on the internet or streaming, we want to welcome you to today's class, and you that will download it and watch it later, we also want to acknowledge you also. So we're in the early stages of trying to see how Spirit, I guess, is trying to put this together into the class that it wants it to be. One thing I do not try to do is to make things final as to what it's going to be. I'm just willing to gather the data and the information, and then we allow the higher self to put it how it wants to be in the class. So basically what we are talking about in the class is about the knowledge of the consciousness self that we have. It says in the body on your manual, but it should be not in the body, but the body, because that's all changed from the old paradigm that most people have written and most of us have used through the 70s, 80s, and early 90s was, we're not a body. That was the message. Whether it's Course in Miracles or anything else, it was all about us not being a body. And now that's changed because we have now taken on a new premise or point in consciousness that says everything is energy. So as long as we saw the three forms that energy takes, we were separating it into the body, mind, and spirit, which served very well when we was in the throes of a 3D world. We understand things in 3 dimensions. And now that that's changing and we're moving into a different dimension in which everything is energy, not everything has energy. That's where we were. My body has an aura. No, the aura has and becomes a body. So we were totally going and leaving out one aspect of the breath of that truth, which is an outer or an inner and outer, inner and outer. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. See? And if you've only got one part of the breath, try that. Just try all breathe out. Keep breathing out. Keep breathing out. No, you got to have the breathe in and the breathe out, or it doesn't work at all. So we've kind of limited ourselves with staying with a paradigm that is shifting at this time from body, mind, spirit. And of course, every time I mention this, for anybody that's new, I do the steam, water, and ice that is so easily for the brain to understand image-wise. And that is the fact that steam, water, and ice are all the same thing. They are all water molecules. Same water. There's not a water. There's not a water molecule for water that's different than a molecule for steam or for ice. Same identical 6-sided water molecule makes all those up. So you got the same thing, only in 3 different forms. And you see, the human brain always sees form before it sees content. We tend to see effects before we see causes. And most of the systems that has served us in 3D has served us from that level of the fact that we see ourselves as bodies that need to be fixed. So we go to a doctor, and if the body is only the manifestation of the effects of our life, what do I mean effects? Emotional issues, thought issues, past issues, all of the kind of stuff that you've suppressed into the subconscious that you've not dealt with that holds some kind of a karmic code to it, right? That you can't fix the effect if you don't change the cause that caused the effect. Are you with me? And that's where energy work has become so popular in the last few decades, is because people have stopped working first with effect and started working with cause. And the cause is in a blueprint for the physical. Does that make sense? Why do I change the physical and leave the old blueprint if the physical is constantly cells that are replicating themselves based on the blueprint? How can I expect a change to happen? Because the new cells that die and replace themselves are reading the same blueprint. And I've used this sample of first time I read Deepak Chopra's book on quantum healing, and he makes the statement that I get a new liver every 6 weeks. I thought, how does that happen? But it's true. If you look it up, you'll see that every week, every cell that makes up the liver will have died and replaced itself. It's constantly happening while you're sitting here right now. Billions of your 60 trillion cells will have died and remade themselves by the time you hit that door. And see, that's what happened with the quantum ability to see deeper into matter, is we didn't see these solid bodies that's been around for 60, 50, 70 years, but we saw this vibration of movement of cells under the electron microscope. It's totally different than looking at something solid. And when you look through the microscope, nothing was solid you thought was solid, because it is all energy and vibration and frequency. Everything is in motion. It's in a dance. Eastern people knew this 5,000 years ago. The Hindus understood it 5,000 years ago. It took us this long, because while they were spending time inside, we were out here trying to climb the corporate ladder. Our definition of successful was to be rich, to have the right label in the clothes, to drive the right car, to do all these things. This is what the Western mind did. It went outside of itself to try to find its identity, while people in the East were spending hours and days and months and years meditating and getting to find the true self. But the beautiful thing in this so-called New Age movement, which is a misnomer as far as I'm concerned, it's not New Age. There's nothing new about it. It's just things we have forgotten that seems new to us. So we think they're new, but they're not. They're ancient. Egyptians knew about it. Many old cultures have known these things that we're just learning right now and trying to call it some New Age thing. So, what we're doing with this class is trying to change the rhythm of aging. That's what I want to do first. I'm not going to promise you immortality. And it's not that I don't think immortality is not achievable, but I don't think we believe it enough that we'll ever achieve it until there's enough people to believe it. Right? I mean, believe it from the core of your being that death, the cycle of death, can be disrupted. And no more birth and death cycle. Now, Buddha put everybody on a birth and death cycle called reincarnation, which is a reality for a certain time. But 2,000 years, I always go back to 2,000 years ago. I can't tell you what must have happened 2,000 years ago as we begin to move into Pisces age. And a new portal opened up. Oh, God, if I get into that, we'll never get out. A new portal opened up for maybe you, maybe me, to start incarnating through a portal that was not being guarded, and therefore we were not dumbed down enough that we were more conscious born. That's why you've always been different. That's why you've always questioned the status quo. That's why you've been a seeker. That's why you've been a person that has been able to step across the lines of being comfortable and familiarity and to try new things and whatever, is because you have not been programmed to dumb down enough that you're only getting it through and after death. And who came along with that? The best was religion. Religion came along and said, you can go be with God, you can go be with Jesus, you can have a mansion in heaven, you can have no sickness, no death, but only after you die. But you can't have it here. I don't know what religion you're from. I'm telling you my religion. If you're from a fundamentalist, literalist Christian, it's all about glorifying death to get to heaven. Which is not what the teacher taught, but that's what they think he taught. But he taught the kingdom of God is here and now. The kingdom of God is within you. The Father is in you. Everything that you're trying to wait for to get to is already in you, waiting for you to become conscious and aware of it. So what we're attempting to do in this class is to upgrade our cellular development by changing our blueprint. Now, you that are Soma Energetics here know that in Soma Energetics that you're taught energy work using the tuning forks in the etheric body. We don't use energy tuners on the body. They don't touch the body. The body can't even feel the vibration of them. So we use them about 2 to 4 inches before the body, not after the body, before the body. I want you to see it this way, not that way. Are you with me on that? So the higher energy bodies are all coming in. You've got your divine body, your light body, which is your perfect created blueprint. It's trying to all come in, but it's got to be interpreted by your mental body, your emotional body, and all your human aspects of yourself will then interpret or misinterpret your wholeness that you were created to be. It's already done. But we've forgotten it's done, so now we think we're broken. And what do we look for? A doctor to fix us, a practitioner to fix us, and we're just looking to be fixed all the time. And all we're doing is shadow boxing and dealing with the effect and leaving the cause the same and the blueprint the same. So you're going to learn in this class, how do we change the blueprint that cells read when they are being reborn in the body. So the big question to me was, after I read this 6th week about the liver, is a person came to me and said, I have liver cancer. Why would I have liver cancer after 6 weeks if the liver has made itself new? And I just got it. I said, because it's reading the same blueprint that caused the cancer. Cancer doesn't start in the body. Everything starts in the blueprint. Do you know that things right now in your etheric blueprint could show up 6 months or a year from now, but it's already there in the form of a disease or cancer or something like that, but it has not shown up yet. And if you could find somebody that can change that blueprint, you can cancel the effect. Isn't that exciting? And that's the work people are not doing. We need to do more energy work that is what we call, what am I trying to think of? You go before you have the situation. So if you came to a soma-energetic practitioner, they would take the tuning forks and they would work in your blueprint, or they would scan in your blueprint and try to find where there is a misinformation in the blueprint that is eventually going to cause an effect in your body. And if you don't get that, you just don't get energy work. So let's look, you that have the supplement. The aging process and its primary cause. It's on page 3 in your manual. So this following information is some of the questions and answers pertaining to this chapter, which is in the bigger book, which we've given you some information of where you can download the bigger book free. Michael, do we still have that information? Okay. We can give that to you because this is a supplement for this. So the real meat of this teaching is in this. I just thought I'd at least give you this so you'd have some kind of a supplement to go along with it. So the following information is some of the questions and answers pertaining to this chapter and how it's been discussed in recent seminars. Probably the question that has been asked the most: if we aren't supposed to believe the information in the book, why should we read it and listen to it? And that's what Gene Davis taught when he was with us in his school. He taught things that really tripped up the ego mind by saying, I don't want you first to believe any of this information. Because the minute you choose to believe something, you qualify it into your belief system. That's what your belief system is. Your belief systems are concepts and ideas that you have qualified to be real to you. Whether they're real or not doesn't make any difference. If you believe it to be real, it has been put into your belief system. So it's important. The purpose of reading the material or listening to it is to expose the concepts to your own conscious light intelligence. So you that feel overwhelmed about, I don't think I'm going to learn all this stuff. I don't know how I'm going to learn all this stuff. It has nothing to do with learning all this stuff, because the only thing that you're really going to get is what's already in you. If you're looking to me for your source, then you're looking outside of yourself. All I'm doing is facilitating for the inner teacher that's within you. So the purpose of the reading material is to expose the concept of your own conscious light of intelligence in order to make it your own. If you have a pen and you're marking, you ought to mark that line. Now I get different color things and I use a color thing in mine, things I want to remember the most and whatever, and that's a good thing to do. And I think we do have these if you're interested in getting one of the supplements. So what I want you to underline is to make it my own. Make it yours, not yours, but my own. This is the key to the entire course. You must make it your own. Now, the only way that I can give you an example, because that's already happened to you somewhat, you have two things in your belief system. The Bible puts it into the parable of the wheat and the tares. The wheat represents the truth of reality, and the tares are those things which we accept that are not the truth, and we're mixed. So we got a mixture in our belief system. Some things in your belief system has been put in there because it came from you, not from a teacher outside of you or anything, because you maybe in contemplation or meditation had a moment that something awakened in your consciousness. And maybe you went, where did that come from? I wasn't even thinking about that. Maybe it just shows up out of nowhere. And you go, wow, I've never thought of it that way. I didn't even think I believed that. Now, if that has happened to you, and I believe it has whether you know it or not, you've had an epiphany. That's what an epiphany is. It is when your own innate intelligence comes up out of the depths of your being and is made consciousness from inside yourself. So, even with what I'm doing up here, you're going to take everything I'm saying in 1 hour. You're not going to understand everything I'm saying in 1 hour. I don't even understand everything I'm saying in 1 hour. I don't even know if I believe half what I'm saying in 1 hour. And that's why he starts out with the question, if we aren't supposed to believe the information book, why should we listen to it? So the question is, why should you come to this class and listen to me facilitate? Because it gives you information for you to contemplate. Now, Bonnie get up and teach about contemplation. She's heard us so many years. But contemplation is so simply this. It is contemplating an idea or thought without attaching the judgment of right or wrong, good or bad, and holding it in the neutral aspect of consciousness. Because you realize how quick we react to things. I don't believe that. If I say something and somebody has already a belief about it and it's not according to what I'm saying, immediately the ego goes, reject, reject, reject. It's not in your belief system, reject, reject. But what it doesn't want you to do is hold it and not react and not judge it and see that if that idea or that truth is your truth, it will resonate with your truth, and that truth will be awakened in you, and it will come from you, and it will become self-knowledge, not David knowledge. I have done that with the teachings of Jesus and Bible. I've gone through those for years and years, and just waited without judging it right or wrong, believe or not believe it. I've waited and see, did it awaken anything in me that I needed to remember? And I built a ministry of 60 years upon that. Are you with me? In other words, I didn't just say, oh, it's in the Bible, it must be true. I went, okay, it's in the Bible, it's kind of interesting. Let me just hold it in contemplation, not judge it right or wrong, good or bad, and see, does it resonate my own epiphany with it? And I go, oh, I get it. Oh, that's so clear. That's so important. And then I go, now I qualify it in my belief system. And when I've done that, I've raised my belief system to a different frequency so that when the cells start reading the blueprint or the belief system, it's on a different frequency than it was down here where the disease and the sickness and the illness was. Now we have raised the vibration of the cells of the body to become a raised, upgrade, physical manifestation of the body. That's why such things as the bodily resurrection of Jesus and others, it's not just Jesus in history that had resurrections. Egypt talked about resurrections and different people, thousands of years, there have always been those who have been raised from the dead. What does that mean metaphysically to me? It means that I need to raise my vibratory frequency to a higher place than the one I'm living on now. And don't you see why we went through months and months of multi-dimensions? Because all those dimensions are there. I mean, there is a self on me. Let's say that I have a disease. I hate to keep using cancer, but let's say cancer or some disease, whatever it is given to me. But already there's a self on another dimension that does not have that disease. There is a self that is in a higher dimension and frequency that doesn't have what I'm having down here. But what am I going to do down here? Try to get somebody to fix me so I can stay down here. That's why we're not evolving, because we want to stay where we are and be better. When the whole reason of being here is to raise your vibratory frequency and find that part of self that is in another dimension that is different from the dimension in which you're living. And that's what supposedly the story of Jesus is that Jesus was resurrected. The whole story, the tomb and all that, that's the story. But let's look at it. I don't know if you know this or not, but after his resurrection, it said he stayed 50 more days before he ascended into the heavens, or the ether. Now, during that few days after the resurrection and the ascension, Jesus is walking around with his peeps. People who knew him, people that had been a follower of his, people that dedicated their life to him, and he walked among them, and it said they did not know him. Why? Because they did not know him in the dimension that he had been raised to that was no longer on the dimension that they were. So when they looked for Jesus on the dimension, he had gone to this dimension and they could not see him. And it says that. He says, and they walked along the road of Damascus talking about him, and he's with them, and they did not know him, for he came in a different form. Are you getting it? Yeah. This is what he said, you can do the same works I did. And what it means is we can raise our frequency until people of lower frequencies would not maybe even see us. So it's all about changing your vibratory frequency. That's the name of the game, people. That's the name of the game. The game is change. Use vibration. Use frequency. Without it, you're not going anywhere. So, everybody kind of with me on that? So you listen to me, but you don't have to believe everything. Well, David said it, so it must be right. I'm not taking that responsibility. You have to take the responsibility of yourself to see what of the information awakens in you, and you have that moment of the epiphany in which the clarity of it is so clear that you say, okay, now I qualified into my belief system, and I've raised my belief system frequency to a higher frequency of belief. And then the cells start reading a higher frequency of belief, and your cells begin to go to a higher development, a higher liver, a higher pancreas, a higher stomach, a higher whatever begins to, and that's the grace of it all, is that the liver does produce itself every 6 weeks and other things until your entire physical body has remade it down to bone and DNA every 7 years. So if I want to know how many bodies I've had, I would have to take 7 into 67. Can anybody do that? I have no idea. About 9. That's about right. So I've had 9 bodies in this lifetime. And then you say, but no, I'm 70 years old, I'm 80 years old, I'm whatever, because of the old teaching that you are aged by your years. And that's what we're going to get into in the next few weeks, is redefining what ages you is not the years you've lived, but the telomeres on your DNA. Are you ready for the ride? Yes. This is going to be a ride. I've been talking about telomeres since 1990, when people thought I was totally crazy. And I read that the Genome Corporation in California had discovered these telomeres that, when chipped off in replication, ages us. So we're going to change our whole definition of what ages me. And the greatest thing that has come out of this in the last couple of decades is something called epigenetics. That it's not your 3% of DNA that has made you the human you are, but it's the other unused part of your DNA that is going to be activated by environment, lifestyle choices, food, pollution, and all kinds of things. So you don't always have to walk out the story of your ancestors. I don't have a great story. My mother was a baby of 9. 8 of them died of cancer in their 40s. My mother was the baby and therefore lived in a more advanced time, the technology, that when she got it, they were able to extend her life to 85. So all of you have some things in your story that you know has been passed down, that we're going to do our best to try to help you to cancel those appointments, so that in 6 months, 6 weeks, you don't get the diagnosis of a disease. Why? Because if you change the dis-ease in the etheric, you will not have the disease in the physical. On the inside cover of the manual, the statement of the thesis is a quote by Lord Himalaya, a member of the celestial hierarchy. Now, he believed very much in the fact of life beyond the planet. He believed in galactic life and planetary life. And he talks about the director and the evolutionary cycle of the 4th root race. And my goodness, I looked that up and I thought I could teach you a whole thing on the 4th root race. But let me tell you, bottom line, it would be the Atlanteans. The 4th root race would be the Atlantis. Through contemplation, you must digest the spiritual instruction after it has been given to you. You must assimilate it and make it your own. Grasp the opportunity while it is yours and hold it until it's your own, just as I just said to you. So, what does this mean? How do you accomplish this? Through contemplation, you must digest the spiritual instruction after it's been given. Contemplation is a holding concept in the focus of the mind. Now think about all the things that are in this room. How many of these things in this room have you an opinion of, or how much of this room have you made a judgment about? Probably nothing. I doubt if you came in and started looking around and say, oh, I like this chair, I don't like that chair, I don't like the color of the walls. You're not even there. You're not focused on specific things. And that is the fact that we don't live much consciously. Bruce Lipton says we live 5% conscious and 95% unconscious. Consciousness is not driving down 77. In fact, if you get too conscious, you'll mess up. Because the fact you've learned to drive and that you are talking to your passenger or your whatever, you shouldn't be talking on your phone, but whatever you're doing, you can do that and drive and still move into another lane and watch this and whatever. You do that totally unconsciously. You don't have to be conscious for that. What else in a day do you do that you're not even conscious of doing it? Because you're in a reactive mode. I mean, to be conscious is an experience. Because it is difficult to hold the attention of the mind on one subject for any length of time, you can pick a word or phrase in the concept that can serve as a point of continuity. And when the mind wanders off the subject, just flash the attention back to the point. So in other words, if you read something, if you thought about something I just said, like the liver makes itself every 6 weeks, and you're going, I don't know if I believe that or not. I'm not sure about that. I'm sure I've had the same old liver for the last 60 years that I have now. I've never heard of anything. I don't know about that. You know, and you go through that analyzing it. Do I believe it or whatever? If you can stay out of that place and just say, okay, out of that whole idea, the word 6, out of 6 weeks. That's your focal point. So as you're contemplating it and trying to hold it, and the crazy monkey thoughts, they call them, is going on all the time, come back to 6. Yes, every 6 weeks, my liver remakes itself. Every 6 weeks. And then next thing you know, I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do for lunch today? And I've got this to do. 6. So find a word, a trick word that tricks in you back to the point in which you're contemplating. And you can be creative when you can do that. When the mind wanders off that subject, just come back to your key word, which I'm picking is 6. So 6 makes me think, oh yeah, 6 weeks. I'm thinking about the liver, making it for 6 weeks. And then I wander off some crazy place again, because that's what we do. And then I go, oh, 6. 6 weeks. That's what I'm contemplating. Does my liver make itself every 6 weeks? And then pretty soon you hold it long enough and it goes, you know, that really feels right. But I think I'm going to check it out on the internet. If you want to, go ahead. Look it up. And you go, oh, well, David's not the only crazy person saying that. I guess there's a bunch of people must know about this, that I didn't know it, but now I do. So I've joined that consciousness. I've entered into the consciousness. The important point here is not to let your ego, which is in charge of processing conscious data only, get hung up on what is true or false, or what is just appearance, or what is being reflected from your pre-established BS system. Most people belief system is a bunch of BS. Has nothing to do with truth. It just has to do with content from outside of themselves that they've heard religiously or they've heard somebody else say, and they've downloaded it into a neuron in the brain. And that's why we have to get you into the uncharted part of self. You only use 3% of your genetic material, 97% or 9% of your DNA has never been activated. You use less than 10% of your human consciousness. Einstein used 10%. If he used 10%, what's most of us using every day? Not much. And that's why what's going on politically and what's going on with this extremity of polarization that is going on right now is basically due that we're so unconscious that we're reactive to stimulus outside of ourselves. So we tag on to Trump, or we tag on to Biden, or we tag on to the conservative, or we tag on to the liberal, or we tag on to the Democrat, the Republican, and the next thing we knew, we've pulled ourselves completely into the illusion of itself. I'm dealing with that. We all are. I mean, this is It said before Jesus really moved into the fullness of why he was here, it said he had to go into the wilderness and face the adversary of himself. It said he was led into the Spirit, into the wilderness, and there parts of himself that had not been made conscious tried to take over and tempt him to be reactionary rather than to stay in his Christ consciousness. Ooh, are you with me? See, he tried to center himself into his Christ consciousness, into the mind of God, if you will. But the ego was trying to pull him out. Oh, if you be the Son of God, say to the stones, and they shall become bread. If you be the Son of God, call the angels, and they'll save you. And he did not. He stayed and did not judge anything right or wrong that was coming out of that part of himself, and contemplated and stayed center into his Christ consciousness till eventually those things had no effect on him at all. Oh, I want you to get it. The processed Yeshua Jesus, after going through that and qualifying, it says that when the adversary came to him, the adversary found nothing in him. What? Of the adversary. The adversary cannot find itself in the life of Jesus. You see, until you are clear, until your eye is single and you're full of light, the adversary will always find something in you, like an anger you've not dealt with, a grief you've not dealt with, an emotion you've not dealt with. And somebody comes along out here and says something you don't like, and you don't like it because it's already in you at a subconscious level, and you've forgotten that it's in you. The next thing you do is you project and change, and I want you to get this, change, cause and effect. You turn it upside down until they caused it. You made me angry. You pissed me off. I was doing fine today. I was really in a good place. And then I'm just using you came along and said something that really pushed a button in me. And how dare you to cause me to be angry? No. The beautiful teaching of that is, she is my teacher. She's come. And what she did found anger already in me. It's not the anger what she did. It's the fact that I had anger already in me. And what she did took me back to the anger I'd not healed or balanced in me. But the ego says, oh, well, project it out on her and let's change cause and effect. And she caused it. So the ego says, if I can get rid of her, so that's what we think. Ladies, if I can get rid of him, and all of us have done it. If we can get rid of somebody, I used to think, I've moved a lot, as you'll find out in the 60th anniversary. Oh my God. Because I kept thinking I wanted to go somewhere and start all over again. Because I was unhappy in Dallas, maybe if I moved to Peoria, Illinois, which is what I did. I just packed up my U-Haul truck, went to Peoria, Illinois, and took a little position there with a little church there. Didn't know anybody, but I didn't want what I was dealing with in Dallas. I thought I'd leave it in Dallas. But the thing I was dealing with in Dallas that was in myself was in Peoria. Because when I got there, there I was. I said, okay, I'm leaving Peoria, I'm going to Indianapolis. That's what I did. 2 years in Peoria, went straight west to Indianapolis. Wow, starting all over again, got a new apartment, don't know anybody. But I took with me what I was not healing in myself. So I kept looking again for players on the stage of my world so I can say, you caused it, you caused it, You caused it. And it wasn't until I understood this in A Course in Miracles that I understood the art of the ego's ability to project on something outside of itself what needs to be healed in ourselves. Now, this is what Jesus represents symbolically, is us at the end of the process. Us who has cleared out everything, all karmic debt, all issues, and our body is totally full of light. Why? Because our eye is single. What does that mean? That means that everything in my life is connected and has a reason and a purpose, and nothing has happened to me of any accident, but it's all happened for the purpose of my growth and my awakening into consciousness. When that happens, there's nobody to blame. So when somebody comes along, you again, and you say things, it doesn't piss me off. Because you found nothing in me. I had healed and cleared that mispatterning of my blueprint. Let's take a breath. So until you learn to consciously establish your own self-knowledge, all you need to do is to review the information until you can comfortably follow the flow of energy through the concepts without consciously getting caught up in the great controversy as to whether or not they are true or false. Wow, that's a hard one. But we are that point of Jesus going into the wilderness before the heavens opened up and he received the Spirit without measure. I'm telling you, this is your last rough patch if you can make it through it. This is your initiation. Remember I talked to you about in Egypt how that they would first lay them on rose quartz tables in the pyramids, in the king's chamber. And they'd get the frequency and the vibration of the sound in the chamber. If it had worked to prepare them and that they had cleared out all their stuff, they became an initiate for enlightenment. And to know if they had, they took them to a dark pool, into a cave, and threw them into the dark pool. And if they were clear of no fear, they would dive into the dark pool and come out of the other side. If they still had fear, they would abort the journey and come back or die in the water, then drown. Now this is what's getting ready to happen to you and I. We're being thrown into the dark water of systems of this world that are breaking down. We are being thrown into a world where every intensity of old karmic debt is before us. And either we're going to go through this and be navigated through it by the higher self, the Holy Spirit, or either we're going to call back, which I watch people do even that come here sometime. Sometime a new person will come and they really kind of like the feel and the music is good and all that. But when they really start hearing what I'm saying, I don't see them again. Why? Because that means they're going to have to change their belief system. They're going to have to contemplate everything that they thought it was, and they may have to change, and they want to change because then my kids won't know who I am, my husband won't know who I am, my wife won't know who I am, so I'm going to go back to what's familiar. I watch it all the time, like a rubber band, pull back, but it goes right back. I've watched it and watched it for 60 years of ministry. This is HeartLight. This is HeartLight. But here's the issue. If you're new and you sit here and you go, what did he just say? He's not a Christian. I'm getting out of here. I'm not going to be anywhere where there's not Christians. So they just assume that if I talk about Jesus, I have to be a Christian. By the way, which is what Sunday message is. Is HeartLight a Christian community? Yeah, we're going to talk about that Sunday. So learning is actually is very simple because you can't believe it anyway. Even if you consciously agree with it, you still can't believe it. Again, the reason is because you may have all kinds of belief patterns in the belief system that are contrary to what you're reading or listening to. So instead of coming in here and saying, okay, he just said something that I don't believe, and what the ego says, all right, that's right or wrong, true or false. Whereas somebody might come in here, which I'm sure has done it, and said, that was really different and new, but I don't think I'm going to judge that yet. I think I'm going to maybe come back a time or two, or maybe I'll get online and listen to him or read some of his stuff. And that person that does it can have an experience of that information resonating in them. And that is the increase of HeartLight. It's not going to be go out and get people in. That's not going into the highways and the byways. It's not about gathering people. It's not about convincing people. It's not about converting people to some belief in HeartLight, which is very difficult to know because our beliefs are all over the place. Because they're always in flux changing. And we have space for you to do that. You don't have to have one thing here. You don't have to be in one modality here. You can try many out. We encourage that, in fact. So there's a difference in the person who reacts immediately, right or wrong, good or bad, and they shut it down. Or the person who says, that's new to me, I've never heard it, but I think I'll think about it. I bet all of you can relate to that to some degree. That how you got here in consciousness by doing a lot of contemplation back here when you're coming out of your Catholic church and your Baptist church and your Episcopalian church or wherever you came out of, you had to come to a place that you could hear things and not judge it immediately because it's not the belief system of your religion. My time is about up. Now you may have conscious opinions, agreeing or disagreeing with it, but this is outside the programming and must be qualified by the belief system. Well, I didn't get to a couple of things I wanted to do today, so I got 5 minutes. One thing is I want to start giving you some health tips to contemplate. This is 5 health benefits in drinking water with a spoonful of baking soda. I am a great believer in baking soda. There has been people that we know has been cured of cancer through intravenous use of baking soda. Doctors that are no longer alive, Italian doctors, different people, have used the simple, inexpensive way of realkalizing the body through baking soda. I take 1 teaspoon every day in a glass of water. So, it improves your digestive system. Dissolving a teaspoon, and you don't want to do more than that because it's not good. Too much of anything is not good. So 1 teaspoon in an 8-ounce glass can help to optimal digestion, acid reflux, healthy bowel functioning. 2, to provide cardiovascular vascular health. A compromised system can lead to such things as decreased energy, negative impact, mental focus, digestion, immunity. A teaspoon of baking soda in an 8-ounce glass is said to improve blood flow by helping to break down blockages. To reduce bloating, when I go out and overeat, first thing I do, I get my baking soda out. And that used to be an old remedy, by the way. When people didn't have anything else, they used baking soda. So if you kind of overeat and you feel bloated and whatever, you can also do that. To keep your kidneys healthy, the kidneys are obviously vital to your body functions. And a study conducted by the Royal London Hospital, 134 patients with advanced chronic kidney disease who had daily doses of baking soda were able to, alongside regular treatment, follow the decline of their followed the decline of their kidneys by 2/3 as compared to those who did not take the baking soda. Another thing that is great is using it as toothpaste. Best thing you can brush your teeth with is some baking soda and a little bit of good alkaline water and a toothbrush, and just brush your teeth with it. It'll keep them white, it'll keep them clean, it'll keep your gums healthy. So there's many things you can do with it. You can look at it online if you're interested in knowing about it. It's the most inexpensive thing you can do. Most of you's got some in your refrigerator or somewhere, but to ingest it is a good thing, and don't let them tell you any different, because the research is out there, and I know that it can help you to upgrade your 3D mortal life to be a little better by the use of baking soda. So I'm going to try to give you something every week, a little bit to contemplate that can help us health-wise. I didn't have time, but I will do it next week. But we're going to talk about something called ageism. We need to understand that age is as much prejudice as racism or genderism or any other ism is over aging, called ageism. And I want to talk to you about that and some of the things that can keep you from feeling bad about getting older. We should start feeling better about getting older. And all of the information and the experience that we have makes us so rich than some little kid that hadn't gone through much of life. And that's the thing about our culture. We do not respect our elders. We do not learn from our elders. These young kids that come over here, be here Sunday, they look at us, a bunch of old people, don't know what we're talking about. But at the same time, we could help them so much to change some of their choices and whatever about some of the things that we go through. But you'll find that in other cultures, Aborigine, Indian culture, so-and-so. Very much it is the elder that is seen as the wise person. So it is a prejudice like any other ism that is out there, is people are too old to know anything, people are too old to be of any use, and we just kind of put them aside in this culture. Let us take a moment. Holy Spirit, once again, you are the teacher with a capital T. I am only the facilitator and teacher with a small t. We ask that you continue to guide us and lead us and teach us those things that will help us to awaken more and more to our true self and who we are, and how that we have access to this great spectrum of vibration and frequency that can change us from one dimension to a higher dimension of existence. And I'm going to close today with reminding you that you've got 1,000, some of you, stations on your television. And I put in a frequency and I get that station. But that station is violence and a bunch of crazy stuff I'm not interested in, but I'm not stuck on that station because I got options. And all I needed to know was how to change the numbers on that station to another number, and I get to another show that's wonderful, and it's the same actor. The same actor is working on the one that is violent and horrible, and I don't want to watch it, to a show that is wonderful and beautiful and uplifting. And I want you to know there are many dimensions and many channels within you that you're yet to experience, that already exists. Don't spend your whole life trying to change this one. Just change your mind about it. Change your consciousness of it. And realize your power. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and breathe. I want to thank you. We have 2 new folks here. Glad to have you. Yeah, we welcome you. Our Sunday services at 11:15 is our morning service, and we invite you to come and be a part of that. All right, thank you for your support for the class. The class can only be because of your willingness. We do not charge you any particular thing. We believe that you are mature enough to give accordingly and the best that you can to keep this class going. So it is. Everybody have a beautiful, great day. Great rest of the week. And you that we can, we'll see you Sunday morning. Thank you.